Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news at 6 on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. UPA decides on Meera Kumar as their consensus candidate for the presidential election. O. Paneerselvam-led faction of AIADMK extends support to NDA candidate Kovind ahead of the poll on July 17th. Three LET militants killed in encounter in Kashmir's Pulwama district. Protests erupt after the incident. Train services suspended in Kashmir Valley for security reasons. A 28-hour countdown starts for the launch of India's Earth observation satellite Cartosat-2. Launch vehicle PSLV C-38 could carry 30 other satellites, including 29 foreign and satellite. An Islamic State terrorists blow up landmark Al-Nouri Mosque in Mosul, where Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi proclaimed the caliphate in 2014. Iraqi Prime Minister calls it an official declaration of defeat by the terror group. Former Lok Sabha Speaker Meera Kumar will be UPA's candidate for the post of the president. The Congress leader will face NDA's Kovind for the top constitutional position. Leaders of 17 opposition parties met on Thursday to decide the joint nominee for the July 17th presidential poll. The meeting concluded in Parliament House complex a short while ago. Prominent among those who attended the meeting were Congress President Sonia Gandhi, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, besides NCP Sharad Pawar and RJD's Lalu Prasad. Left leader Sitaram Yechury and D. Raja, DMK's Karnimuri and National Conference's Omar Abdullah also attended the meeting. Well, there you have it. Of course, these are visuals from the meeting that just took place, where opposition parties met earlier today. The meeting has just concluded to decide their nominee for the presidential election. The nominee, of course, will be Meera Kumar. Joining me on the phone line right now is our correspondent, Kriti Mishra. Well, Kriti, there you have it. Of course, the opposition party is naming a presidential candidate. Is going to be Meera Kumar versus Kovind.
Well, that's right, Frank. After the meeting ended right now, the opposition parties, in fact, 17 opposition parties have decided to field Meera Kumar for the presidential election. But remember, as the meeting started, a lot of party leaders were telling us offhand that, 3-4 names came up for the discussion that included Meera Kumar, in fact, the senior Congress leader, Sushil Kumar Shinde, and also
well, we seem to have lost the line there with Kriti Mishra, but there you have it. Kriti Mishra telling us that there were a few names on the table, but ultimately it was the name of Meera Kumar that that has been taken up by the opposition to contest the presidential election. She will go head to head with the NDA's nominee Kovind. 17 opposition parties were represented at this particular meeting that was concluded a short while ago. Kriti Mishra is joining us on the phone line now. Kriti, any details emerging as to how the name of Meera Kumar was finally decided upon?
Well, that's right, Frank. While the opposition parties were discussing the names, there were around 4 names. Meera Kumar was, of course, one of the top choices. There were other names like Prakash Ambedkar. There were other names like Gopal Gandhi, and also senior Congress party leader Sushil Kumar Shinde. But finally, the opposition parties decided that they needed a very strong Dalit face with a very...
Well, as expected, the phone line, of course, seems to be a problem there with Kriti Mishra. Kriti Mishra is in a place where it's difficult to get signal at the moment, and that's why you have these technical difficulties with the phone line. But nonetheless, these are visuals from the meeting that has just come to an end, where 17 parties of the opposition, of course, met during the course of the day today to decide their presidential nominee. So there is eventually going to be a fight. There is no consensus as far as next president of the country is going to be. Well, a day after the AIADMK Amma faction extended support for Ramnath Kovind, O Pannirselvam's faction has also voiced confidence in his candidature. Former Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Pannirselvam announced that the decision was taken after talks with BJP President Amit Shah. Meanwhile, the JDU, which announced its support to Kovind yesterday, said that the decision to support Kovind is an isolated decision and that the party is firm in its opposition against the NDA. Speaking to news agency PTI, JDU national spokesperson KC Tyagi also said that the JDU is bound to support Kovind's presidential bid as he discharged his duties as Bihar governor with grace. Well, 3 terrorists were killed by security forces in a gun battle in Kakapora area of Jammu and Kashmir's Pulwama district on Thursday. Authorities termed the successful operation a big blow to terror outfits in the valley. Meanwhile, a civilian was also killed in protests that erupted after the encounter.
Security forces shot dead 3 Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists on Thursday in an encounter that lasted over 6 hours in the Kakapura area of Pulwama district in South Kashmir. The Army, Special Operation Groups and CRPF conducted the joint operation. One of the dead terrorists was reportedly involved in a number of killings, including a sarpanch of Kakapura.
ये बहुत बड़ी कामयाबी है सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस के लिए क्योंकि ये जो तीनों मिलिटेंट्स थे इनमें से स्पेशली माजिद का इन्वॉल्वमेंट बहुत अलग-अलग केसेस में रहा है. इसमें वो हमारा 182 बटालियन के एक सब इंस्पेक्टर के ऊपर फायर करना क्लोज रेंज से और इस सब के और भी बैंक डकैती और इसके अलावा OGW की किलिंग में भी इसका हाथ था जिसकी वजह से ये वांटेड मिलिटेंट था.
The encounter started on Wednesday night after intelligence inputs suggested that few terrorists were holed up in a house. 3 AK-47 rifles and ammunition were recovered from the terrorists. This was the second successful operation against the terror outfit within 3 days.
We got to know from intelligence sources that 2 to 3 terrorists were holed up in this house. We tried to give them an offer to surrender by announcing a safe passage for them. However, own parties were fired upon intensely from the house. In the retaliatory fire, 3 terrorists were neutralized.
In another development, a civilian was killed in clashes between residents and security forces after the encounter. Scores of protesters came out on streets and pelted stones after the incident. All trains running in Kashmir Valley were suspended for security reasons after the protests. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the West Bengal government on Thursday urged the Gorkha Janmukti Morcha to end their agitation. This comes as the normal life continues to be crippled in the hill town after an indefinite strike entered the 8th day. No untoward incident was reported from anywhere in the hills. Shops remained closed and internet services were suspended in the region. Long queues of residents were seen on the roads waiting for hours for buses to move from one place to another. Meanwhile, the district administration registered a complaint against DJM chief Bimal Gurung, his wife and other party supporters under sections 302 and 120B. The Morcha is protesting the state government's move to make Bengali compulsory in schools. Later, the movement turns into a demand to form a separate Gorkhaland state.
পাহাড়ের যে উন্নতি কল্পে কল্যাণমুখ কর্মসূচি যেটা মমতা বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায় গ্রহণ করেছেন তাকে সকলে মিলে এগিয়ে নিয়ে যাওয়ার জন্য যা পাহাড়বাসীর একান্ত প্রয়োজন পাহাড়ের শান্তি ফেরাতে হবে সবাইকে নিয়েই এবং পাহাড়বাসীর উন্নতিকে আরো অগ্রাধিকারের ভিত্তিতে এগিয়ে নিয়ে যেতে হবে
Well, India is all set to launch a second satellite in its Earth observation Cartosat-2 series. The indigenous PSLV C-38 will launch Cartosat-2 along with 29 foreign nano-satellites tomorrow, the countdown for which began in Sriharikota today. The 28-hour countdown for the Friday morning launch of India's Earth observation satellite Cartosat-2 began on Thursday morning. Launch vehicle PSLV C-38 will carry Cartosat-2 and 30 other satellites, including 29 foreign and 1 Indian satellite. PSLV C-38 will take off on its 40th flight at 9:29 a.m. on Friday from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh, launching the 702-kilogram Cartosat-2 series satellite into a 505-kilometer polar sun synchronous orbit. The 29 nano-satellites belong to 14 countries, including Austria, Belgium, Chile, the United Kingdom and the United States of America. The 30 satellites will together weigh 243 kilograms, and the total weight of all 31 satellites, including Cartosat, is about 955 kilograms. The Cartosat-2 series satellite is a remote sensing satellite. The imagery sent by it will be useful for cartographic applications, urban and rural applications, coastal land use and regulation, utility management like road network monitoring, water distribution and creation of land use maps. The international satellites are being launched as part of the commercial arrangements between ISRO's commercial arm, the Antrix Corporation Limited, and its international customers. 160 crore rupees has been allocated for the project. Cartosat-1, the first in the series of Earth observation satellites, was launched on May 5, 2005, followed by Cartosat-2 on January 10, 2007. ISRO also plans to design, develop and launch Cartosat-3 and OceanSat-3. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has said that India is working with ASEAN to evolve regional security architecture in the Asia-Pacific to find collaborative solutions to emerging and non-traditional challenges. She was speaking at the ASEAN-India partnership, strengthening the Indian diaspora in ASEAN countries and encouraging historical and cultural linkages.
External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj on Thursday asserted that bilateral trade has picked up between India and the ASEAN after 2 years of slow growth. Her remarks come in the backdrop of India being accused of dragging its feet in the regional cooperation economic partnership talks. Swaraj said efforts are underway to enhance physical connectivity by land, air and sea.
After almost 2 years of slow growth, ASEAN-India trade is now back on track with an increase of 8% in 2016-17, and with India's exports to ASEAN having increased by almost 20% in 2016-17.
The minister said enhancing maritime cooperation and security is a focus area for both ASEAN and India. In her address on India-ASEAN partnership for the think tank research and information system, the minister listed terror financing, arms smuggling, human trafficking, money laundering and cybercrime as major challenges facing the region. India and ASEAN, she added, are working to combat them.
Enhancing maritime cooperation and security has been an area of focus for both ASEAN and India. Combating drug abuse, trafficking remains a major challenge in the region.
Swaraj also spoke about India's cultural links as well as the influence of Hinduism in some ASEAN nations. Navvikram Singh's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the benchmark Sensex hit a record high of 31,494 on Thursday, recording a surge of over 200 points in intraday trade. The 30-share index broke its previous lifetime high of 31,430.32 that it touched on June 6th and closed at 31,290.74. The 50-share NSE Nifty also gained 46.30 points at 9,679.90 and then slipped 3.6 points to 9,630. This gain followed a series of market-friendly measures taken by the Securities and Exchange Board of India that included relaxing entry norms for overseas investors. SEBI also eased its takeover norms for restructuring listed companies with stressed assets, a move that is expected to bolster efforts for bad loan resolution. The biggest gainers were HDFC, Sun Pharma, Reliance Industries and Axis Bank. Let's now take a look at all the other national developments in our segment Nationwide. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, who left on a 3-day visit to Moscow yesterday, will co-chair the 17th meeting of the India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission with his Russian counterpart General Sergei Shoigu. India and Russia will also explore further ramping up of bilateral defense and security cooperation. 5 Tamil Nadu fishermen were arrested by the Sri Lankan Navy for allegedly fishing in the island nation's territorial waters. According to the officials, they were arrested off Neduntivu and were later taken to Kakanasotorai to be lodged in prison. Farmers protesting land acquisition for a proposed airport at Naiveli set vehicles on fire. They also blocked a busy road in the area by throwing burning tires, leaving 4 policemen injured. According to defense spokesperson, the state government had started acquiring land in the area to set up the proposed airport, which the farmers are opposing. Well, it's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
The cement that is being manufactured has got a particular 2 or 3 drawbacks. One is it has to use naturally available materials. 1 ton of CO2, close to 1 ton is being emitted for 1 ton of carbon, 1 ton of cement being produced. Institutes in this country as well as all over the world has stumbled upon what is called another material called as a geopolymer, which may revolutionize this particular thing.
Watch Eureka with Dr. N. Gopalakrishnan, Director CSIR, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, India has accused the Security Council and the international community of tending to ignore terrorists and their backers ravaging Afghanistan. During a debate on the situation in Afghanistan, India's permanent representative to the UN, Syed Akbaruddin, said that the international community's collective inability and unwillingness to see the problem for what it has inflicted huge costs on the people of Afghanistan. The Council has even shied away from condemning some of the terrorist attacks in Afghanistan. Akbaruddin also said that the terrorist attacks in Afghanistan were played down as the work of anti-government elements or the result of civil and political conflicts. He also hinted at Pakistan having a hand in what happens in Afghanistan. He even listed questions that the Security Council and world should ask, and those would point to Pakistan's role. Well, the White House appointed Kenneth Justin as the new US ambassador to India. He will replace Richard Verma. Justin is a top economic official of the US President Donald Trump and an expert on India. According to the White House, Justin's appointment is eminently qualified for the position. Justin is currently serving as a Deputy Assistant to the US President for International Economic Affairs and Deputy Director of National Economic Council. Well, the Islamic State militant group has blown up the Great Mosque of Al-Nouri in Mosul. Aerial photos show that the mosque and minaret have been largely destroyed. It is noteworthy that the mosque is an ancient landmark where IS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi proclaimed a caliphate in 2014. However, IS claims that US aircraft destroyed the complex. Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi said blowing up the mosque was an official declaration of defeat by the Islamic State. US military said IS had destroyed one of Mosul and Iraq's great treasures. The development comes as Iraqi forces march on in their offensive to retake Mosul, which was launched in October last year. The UN says the militant group may be holding more than 1 lakh people in Mosul as human shields. While Iraqi government announced the full liberation of eastern Mosul in January this year, the west of the city has presented a more difficult challenge. Well, at least 26 people were killed and over 60 injured after a car exploded in Afghanistan's Helmand province. The blast took place when soldiers, government employees and other civilians were lining up outside a bank to collect their salaries. Emergency workers and volunteers were helping to ferry the injured to local hospitals and makeshift ambulances and civilian cars. This was the latest in a series of attacks in Afghanistan during the holy month of Ramzan. No group claimed responsibility for the attack yet. However, the Taliban and the Islamic State have made similar attacks in the past. The death toll is expected to rise. Let's now take a look at some more developments from across the globe in Global Buzz. Tests on tower blocks following the Grenfell Tower fire showed that cladding on a number of buildings was combustible. Prime Minister Theresa May said local authorities and fire services concerned are taking all possible steps to ensure the buildings are safe and residents have been informed. At least 58 people are missing and presumed dead after the devastating blaze struck the West London Tower block on Wednesday. Foreign ministers, top security and intelligence officials from the Philippines, Indonesia and Malaysia met on Thursday afternoon to discuss ways to combat extremism. The trilateral meeting focused on the fight against extremism, an urgent matter especially for the country because of the ISIS-linked terrorist operations in Marawi. The US will provide $7.5 million to ensure access to affordable and reliable energy. The Ministry of Science and Technology and Industry will match the commitment of US's Department of Energy, bringing the total commitment to USD 30 million. Tropical storm Cindy made landfall in southwestern Louisiana on early Thursday morning, according to the National Hurricane Center. Tropical storm Cindy expected to weaken over the next 48 hours as it moves farther inland. Cindy was located 30 miles west-southwest of Lake Charles, LA at 4 a.m. Thursday. It has a maximum sustained winds of 40 miles per hour and is moving north at 12 miles per hour. And moving on to some sports news now, where India will take on Malaysia in the quarterfinals of the World Hockey League semi-final in London later today. India finished second in their group behind the Netherlands. The men in blue won their first 3 group games comfortably, scoring 14 goals but lost to Netherlands 1-3 in their final group game. Malaysia, on the other hand, finished third in their group. India will look to push for the win as a top 4 finish in the tournament will guarantee them a place in the Hockey World League final to be held in Bhubaneswar later this year. The match begins at 8 p.m.
From there makes absolutely no question.
Well, here's a roundup of the other sports news in Sports Beat. Indian shuttlers B. Sai Praneeth and Kidambi Srikanth won their respective round 2 matches to progress to the quarterfinals of the Australia Open Super Series on Thursday. While world number 14 Praneeth registered a 21-15, 18-21, 21-13 win over Huang Yuxiang of China, Srikanth slayed world number 1 Son Wan Ho by 15-21, 21-13, 21-13. In the women's singles, world number 3 PV Sindhu registered a straight game win over Chen Shoshin to breeze into the final 8. New Zealand wicketkeeper Luke Ronchi has announced his retirement from international cricket. 36-year-old Ronchi played in 4 ODIs and 3 T20s for Australia in 2008 and 2009, but came into his own after transferring his allegiance back to his native New Zealand in 2013. Since then, he has played 4 Tests, 85 one-day internationals and 32 T20 internationals. Brazil's Oscar was banned for 8 games on Thursday for triggering a mass brawl in the Chinese Super League between his Shanghai SIPG side and opponents Guangzhou RNF. After the former Chelsea midfielder appeared twice to fire the ball deliberately at Guangzhou players on Sunday, he was rushed by several opponents. Oscar fell to the ground and a melee broke out. Liverpool will pay big money for Egyptian winger Mohamed Saleh. The Roma player is due to have a medical on Merseyside on Thursday, with his transfer fee estimated at between £34 million and £39 million. Should the transfer happen, it would be a case of second time lucky for Liverpool, who wanted Saleh in 2014 only to see him move to Chelsea instead from the Swiss club Basel. That's it on this newscast. Have a good evening.